room was silent. In a control center on Earth, many people were sitting in front of glowing screens. No one was talking, no one was smiling, they were waiting. Millions of kilometers away, something very important was happening. A small robot named Perseverance was flying alone toward Mars. It could not hear human voices, it could not ask for help. It could only follow the instructions placed inside its memory long ago. This moment was called the desperate call, because once Perseverance entered Mars, there was no turning back. Mars looked calm from far away. A red planet, silent and beautiful, but the people in the control room knew the truth. Mars was dangerous. Many missions had tried to land there before, many had failed, some burned, some crashed, some simply disappeared. Mars had no mercy. Perseverance was not just a machine, it carried years of human hope. Scientists, engineers, and dreamers had worked day and night for this moment. If it failed, everything would be lost. Perseverance was moving very fast, faster than a bullet, faster than sound. Its body began to shake. The thin air of Mars started to pull at it. Heat grew stronger every second, fire wrapped around the heat shield. Inside the control room, screens showed numbers changing quickly. Speed, altitude, temperature. The numbers were dropping, but no one could help. Signal from Mars took 11 minutes to reach Earth. That meant Perseverance was already facing danger before anyone on Earth even knew it. It was completely alone. One engineer slowly held his breath. Another wiped sweat from her hands. They had practiced this moment many times. They had simulated every problem, but practice was on Earth. Mars followed no rules. This was real. Perseverance had one job now: survive. Its computer began to work. No emotions. No fear, just decisions. Should it slow down? Should it adjust its angle? Should it prepare the parachute? All these choices had to be correct. One small mistake could destroy the mission forever. The heat outside was extreme, hotter than molten lava. The heat shield started to burn away, doing exactly what it was designed to do: protect the rover. If the heat shield failed, Perseverance would be gone in seconds. Back on Earth, the silence became heavy. No one dared to speak. They were waiting for a signal, any signal. Suddenly, one screen blinked. A new data point appeared. Perseverance was still alive, but the hardest part had not started yet. Mars pulled the rover closer. Gravity became stronger. The speed was still too high. Now came the most dangerous decision: the parachute. It was one of the biggest parachutes ever built. Strong, light, perfectly folded. If it opened too early, it would tear apart. If it opened too late, it would be useless. The rover had only one chance. Inside its system, Perseverance made the call. The parachute deployed. For a moment, everything depended on thin fabric and perfect timing. On Earth, no one knew yet. The signal was still traveling through space. 11 minutes felt like a lifetime. Finally, a voice broke the silence. Signal received. Everyone looked up. The parachute had opened. A small wave of relief moved through the room, but no one celebrated. They knew the truth. Mars was not finished. Perseverance was slowing down, but it was still falling. Rocks waited below. Dust storms moved silently across the surface. The rover scanned the ground. It searched for a safe place to land. This was not luck. This was design. Years of human knowledge were working inside a machine millions of kilometers away. But suddenly the data changed again. Altitude dropping faster than expected. Something was wrong. The control room froze. Was it a sensor problem or something worse? No one could answer. They could only wait. This was the desperate moment. Perseverance was calling for help, not with words but with data. A silent call across space. Would anyone hear it in time, or would Mars take another mission forever? The rover continued its descent. The ground was getting closer, too close, and the most dangerous part of the journey was about to begin. To be continued, the message reached Earth late. Everything Perseverance was doing right now had already happened. The people in the control room were watching the past. They knew this, and that made it worse. For 7 long minutes, Perseverance was completely on its own. No commands, no help, no second chances. Engineers called these moments 7 minutes of terror. Because during these minutes, Mars decides the future. Perseverance was falling deeper into the red planet's sky. The parachute pulled hard. The rover shook like a leaf in a storm. The air around Mars was thin but violent. It was not strong enough to slow the rover safely. Not alone. Perseverance needed to do more, and it needed to do it fast. Inside the rover, the computer was working faster than any human mind. It was reading the ground below, rocks, slopes, danger. This rover was different from all before it. It could see Mars. A special camera was taking pictures while falling. The rover compared these images with a map stored inside its memory. This system had one job: find a safe place or die trying. On Earth, one scientist whispered softly, "It has to choose the right spot." No one replied, because everyone knew if Perseverance chose wrong, the mission was over. The parachute had done its part. Now it was time to let go. At the wrong moment, the parachute released. Perseverance dropped again. Free fall. The ground rushed closer. There was no fear inside the machine. Only numbers, only logic. But for the humans watching, fear was everywhere. Then came the next step. The rover turned on its engines. Fire burst downward. Dust exploded across the Martian sky. Perseverance was no longer just falling, it was flying. This was the most dangerous move of all. If the engines failed, crash. If they burned too long, crash. If they burned unevenly, crash. Mars allowed no mistakes. The control room was frozen in time. Some people stood, some sat with hands over their mouths, some stared without blinking. 7 minutes felt like hours. Perseverance moved sideways in the sky. It was avoiding danger. This was never done before at this level, a rover choosing its own landing place while falling from space. Human history was changing silently. The ground was now very close, too close. The engines slowed the rover more and more. Dust covered the cameras. For a moment, Perseverance could not see clearly, but it did not stop. It trusted its system. Now came the craziest part of the mission. The Sky Crane, a flying machine carrying a rover under its body. No human pilot, no remote control, only trust. Perseverance hovered above Mars. Then cables lowered the rover slowly. 7 meters, 6'5". The cables stretched tight. If they snapped, everything would be lost. On Earth, a woman quietly closed her eyes. She had worked on those cables for 8 years. 8 years depending on a few seconds. 4 meters, 3. The rover's wheels were ready, 2, 1. Then suddenly the signal paused. Just for a moment, heart stopped. Did it crash? Did Mars win again? Then a new message arrived. 3 simple words. Rover on surface. The room exploded. People shouted. People cried. People hugged. Years of fear released in one breath, but Perseverance was not finished. The Sky Crane cut the cables and flew away to crash far from the rover. Perseverance stood alone on Mars, silent, alive. This was not just a landing, it was a message. Humans can reach another world and survive, but the real mission had just begun. Mars was hiding secrets, old secrets, and Perseverance was ready to uncover them. To be continued. Mars was silent, no wind sound, no human voice, only a small machine standing on red ground. Perseverance had landed, but landing was not the victory, it was only permission to begin. On Earth, people were still celebrating, clapping, crying, smiling, but Perseverance did not celebrate. It woke up slowly. Its systems checked one by one. Power stable, temperature normal, memory active. It was alive, alone on another planet. Mars was cold, very cold. At night, the temperature could kill any weak machine. Many missions before had died silently in the dark. But Perseverance was built to think, not like a human, but close. The rover lifted its camera slowly. This was the first look, not a picture for beauty, a picture for survival. Rocks, shadows, dust, everything could be danger. Perseverance studied the land like a soldier in enemy territory. On Earth, engineers waited for the first image. When it arrived, the room went quiet again. Mars looked empty, but emptiness was not safety. Perseverance did something no rover had done before. It planned its own moves. Earlier rovers waited for commands. They stopped, they asked. Perseverance did not. It looked, it decided, it moved. This was risky. If it made a wrong decision, no one could stop it, but Mars had no patience for slow thinking. Signals took too long. The rover had to survive now, not later. The wheels touched the ground gently. Each wheel was tested. Mars soil was sharp, hard like broken glass. Older rovers had suffered here. But Perseverance's wheels were stronger. They rolled forward, slowly, carefully. The rover stopped. Why? Its sensors detected something strange. A shadow too dark, a rock shape too sharp. Was it safe? No one on Earth knew yet. Perseverance waited 3 seconds. Then it chose another path. A small decision. But on Mars, small decisions mean life or death. Night came fast. The sky turned dark red. The cold arrived. Inside Perseverance, heaters turned on. Energy dropped slightly. Everything was calculated. This rover did not panic. It adapted. On Earth, one scientist whispered, "It's thinking on its own." Another replied, "We taught it well." But deep inside, they all felt the same fear. What if Mars surprises it? Mars had destroyed missions before, not with storms, not with fire, but with silence. One moment working, next moment gone. No warning. Perseverance stood still through the night, listening, measuring, learning. It was not just a robot. It was a student on an ancient planet. When the sun rose, Perseverance woke again. Its camera turned. Something new appeared, a strange pattern in the soil, not random, not normal. The rover stopped, focused, recorded. On Earth, the image arrived minutes later. Scientists leaned closer. This was not just rock. This was history, maybe billions of years old. Mars was starting to speak, very slowly, very quietly. And Perseverance was ready to listen. But listening was dangerous, because what if the rover discovered something that humans were not ready to understand? Perseverance prepared to move deeper, farther from the landing site, farther from safety, closer to the unknown. Mars had allowed the rover to land, but now Mars would test it again, and again. Mars was not empty. It only looked empty. Perseverance did not see cities, it did not see life, but it felt something else. History. The rover moved slowly away from its landing place. Every wheel turn was careful. Every stop was planned. This land was old, older than anything on Earth. Billions of years ago, Mars was different, warmer, wetter. Perseverance was here to remember what Mars had forgotten. The rover stopped near a flat area. Its sensors reacted. Something in the ground was different, not dangerous, but unusual. Perseverance lowered its camera. The soil had lines, patterns, not made by wind, not made by chance. On Earth, scientists waited as images arrived. One by one, someone leaned forward, someone zoomed in. This area was once wet, a voice said quietly. Water, that one word changed everything. Water meant rivers, rivers meant movement, movement meant possibility, and possibility meant life. Perseverance drilled into the rock, slowly, carefully. This was not destruction, this was a question. The drill stopped. Inside the rover, a sample was collected. A small piece of Mars, small but powerful. This rock had not seen light for millions of years. It remembered things humans never lived to see. Night returned, Mars grew silent again. The sky darkened, stars appeared brighter than on Earth. Perseverance stood still, waiting, thinking. Mars tested patience. The cold deepened, temperatures dropped to deadly levels, but Perseverance stayed awake, listening to the planet. Suddenly sensors picked up a sound, not noise, vibration. Very light, very slow. The rover stopped all movement. Was it wind? Was it shifting ground or something else? On Earth, data arrived late as always. Scientists stared. The readings were strange, not dangerous, but not normal either. Mars was moving just a little. Perseverance recorded everything. It did not assume, it did not guess, it only collected truth. Morning came again. The red sun rose low in the sky. Light touched the rocks. Shadows moved. And Perseverance saw something new. A rock formation, layered like pages in a book. Each layer was time. Each line was a story. Perseverance moved closer. This was not random. This place was once shaped by flowing water. Slow water, calm water. The kind that allows life to grow. On Earth, excitement grew, but no one spoke loudly. Mars had taught them silence. Mars had broken hopes before. The rover prepared another test. It aimed a laser at the rock. A small flash of light. The rock reacted. Data flowed in. The answer was clear. This place was once alive with water. Mars remembered, and Perseverance had unlocked that memory. But memory can be dangerous, because if Mars once had water, what else did it have? The rover paused. Its systems warned of dust in the air. Not a storm, but the beginning of one. Dust storms on Mars can last months. They can blind. They can starve machines of power. Perseverance had to decide. Stay and study, or move and survive. Again, it was alone. Again, it had to think. It chose to move, slowly leaving the ancient site, but not forgetting it. The samples were stored safely, waiting for a future mission, waiting to go home to Earth. Mars watched, silent, as it always had. Perseverance stopped at a higher point. From here, it could see far, red land stretching forever. A planet that once may have looked like Earth. A planet that lost something. The rover turned its camera toward the horizon. Dust moved like ghosts. The past and present mixed together. Perseverance was not just exploring Mars, it was asking a dangerous question. If Mars lost its life, could Earth lose it too? And Mars was about to answer, slowly. Cruelly, Mars does not warn, it does not count down, it does not give signs like Earth, it attacks quietly. Perseverance detected the change before humans did. The sky was different, not darker, not louder, just heavier. Dust particles were rising slowly from the ground, not fast, not violent, but dangerous. On Mars, dust is not simple dirt. It can cover eyes, it can block sunlight, it can slowly kill machines. Many missions had ended this way, not with a crash, but with silence. Perseverance stopped moving. It turned its camera upward. The sun looked weak, blurred. That was a bad sign. Inside the rover, systems adjusted. Power was reduced. Movement slowed. Non-essential tools went quiet. This was survival mode. On Earth, scientists received the images minutes later. Someone spoke softly, "A dust storm is coming." No one argued. They had seen this before, and it never ended well. The storm did not arrive suddenly. That made it worse. Day by day, dust filled the air. The sky lost its color. Red turned into brown. Brown turned into darkness. Perseverance stayed still. Moving now would waste power. It waited, listening to the planet. Night came, colder than before. The heaters worked harder. Energy dropped, slowly, dangerously. Mars tested patience again. One full day passed, then another. Dust covered the rover's body. The camera lens grew dirty. Vision faded. On Earth, people watched helplessly. They could not send commands fast enough. Mars was too far. Time was the enemy. Some missions before had survived dust storms. Many had not. Perseverance was stronger, smarter. But Mars did not care. The storm grew thicker. Sunlight almost disappeared. Solar power dropped to critical levels. This was the edge. Inside Perseverance, a decision formed. A risky one. It would slightly move, just enough to adjust its angle to catch any weak sunlight. This move had never been tested in a storm like this. If it failed, the rover could slip. If it slipped, it could damage itself. But staying still meant slow death. Perseverance moved a few centimeters, then stopped. Systems checked. Stable, alive. On Earth, the new data arrived. Someone whispered. It moved on its own. This was not fear, this was respect. Hours passed, then something changed. The sky lightened just a little. The dust was thinning. Mars was backing away. Perseverance waited, still, patient. Finally, sunlight touched the rover again. Weak but real. Power slowly increased. Systems woke one by one. Perseverance survived. Again, the storm moved on, leaving silence behind. Mars looked calm, like nothing had happened, but the rover was changed. It had learned something important. Mars does not forgive weakness. Perseverance cleaned its cameras, turned its eyes forward. The mission was still alive and now more dangerous than before because storms were not the only threat. Mars had deeper secrets, and some secrets do not want to be found. Perseverance rolled forward, slowly, bravely. Unknown land. Mars was quiet again, too quiet. After the dust storm passed, the land looked clean, almost peaceful, but Perseverance did not trust peace on Mars. It had learned already. The rover moved slowly forward. Each wheel pressed into the soil like a question. Each step asked Mars one thing: what are you hiding? Perseverance stopped near a small rocky hill. Its sensors reacted instantly. Something was wrong, not danger, not damage. Data. Strange data. Inside the rover, numbers appeared. They did not match expectations. The readings were weak but clear, too clear. On Earth, the signal arrived 11 minutes later. Scientists leaned closer to their screens. No one spoke. The data did not look broken. It did not look random. It looked organized. One engineer broke the silence. This signal should not exist. Perseverance checked again. Same result again. Same. The rover turned its camera toward the ground. Nothing moved. No wind, no shadow, just rocks, old rocks. Mars had a strong magnetic past. Long ago it had protection like Earth, but that protection was gone, or so humans believed. Perseverance activated a deeper scan. This tool was built for one reason: to look under the surface, not far, just enough. The signal grew stronger, then stopped, then returned like a heartbeat, slow, steady. On Earth, fear mixed with excitement. This was not proof of life, not yet. But it was not nothing. Some scientists thought it was minerals, others thought it was old lava paths. One thing was clear: Mars was responding. Perseverance moved closer, carefully, slowly. The rover did not rush mystery. That was how missions died. The ground here was darker. The soil was packed tighter. This place had not changed for millions of years. It was untouched. Perseverance lowered its arm. The drill moved down. The sound was soft, controlled, respectful. As the drill reached deeper, the signal changed again. Stronger, clearer, different. On Earth, breath stopped. This was not expected. The numbers were repeating, not perfectly, but enough to notice. Mars was not speaking loudly, but it was whispering. The drill stopped. Perseverance collected another sample, sealed it, protected it. This piece of Mars was important. Night came quickly. The rover powered down many systems, but one sensor stayed active, listening. The signal continued through the night. Slow, patient, like it had waited for this moment. On Earth, debates began. Some said it was geology, some said it was chemistry. No one said the word life, not out loud. Mars had hurt them before. Morning arrived. The red sun rose. Light touched the rocks. The signal weakened, then faded. Perseverance waited, then scanned again. Nothing. Silence. Had Mars changed its mind, or had Perseverance missed something? The rover moved slightly left. Scanned again. Nothing. Then right there, a weak return. Perseverance marked the location, saved it. This place mattered. On Earth, a decision was made. Careful, slow. They would not rush. They would observe. Mars punished impatience. Perseverance stood still, looking at the ground, at the silent rocks. A planet that once may have been alive. This signal was not an answer. It was an invitation, but invitations can be dangerous, because once you accept, there is no going back. Perseverance prepared to move deeper into the region, farther from safety, closer to truth. Mars watched, as it always did, waiting to see how brave humans really were. And somewhere beneath the red soil, something ancient remained. Perseverance did not move for a long time. It stayed near the marked location, the place where the strange signal appeared. Mars was calm again, but calm on Mars never meant safe. Inside the rover, the sealed sample rested quietly. A small tube, clear, protected. To human eyes it looked normal. To science it felt heavy. On Earth, scientists studied the data again and again. They did not rush. Mars punished excitement. Mars rewarded patience. Perseverance began a new test, not on the ground, on the sample itself. The rover used light, different colors, different angles. The sample reacted, not strongly, but enough. The readings changed slightly, very slightly. But that was the problem. They were not stable. One scientist whispered, "Why is it changing?" No one answered. Rocks do not change. Dead things do not change. Not like this. Perseverance checked temperature. Normal. Pressure normal. Radiation normal. Still the data shifted slowly, like breathing. On Earth, a quiet fear entered the room. Not panic, not joy. Fear of being wrong. Fear of being right. Mars had played tricks before. Chemistry could lie. Minerals could fool instruments. But this pattern, it was stubborn. Perseverance ran the test again. Same result. Again. Same. The rover tilted its camera, focused on the sample tube. Dust floated around it. Mars dust was everywhere, but inside the tube the sample was isolated, protected, alone. Night came, cold spread across the planet. Perseverance powered down many systems, but the sample sensor stayed on, always watching, always listening. During the night, something unexpected happened. The readings stopped changing. Flat, silent. On Earth, relief mixed with doubt. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe Mars was playing with noise. Morning arrived. Sunlight returned. Perseverance woke fully. The sensor checked again. The readings changed again, not randomly, not wildly, but slowly, consistently. This was the moment no one wanted to say out loud. The sample was reacting to light. Light means energy. Energy means movement. Movement means process. One scientist finally spoke, very softly. This should not happen. Perseverance did not understand fear. It only understood tasks. It prepared the sample for storage. This tube was different now, special, dangerous. The rover sealed it again, extra protection, extra care. This sample was no longer just rock, it was a question. On Earth, a decision was made. This sample would be returned someday. Not soon, but one day, humans would touch it. Study it, face it. Perseverance moved away from the site, slowly, respectfully, like leaving a grave or a secret. Mars stayed silent, but not empty, not anymore. The rover climbed higher ground. From there it could see far hills, valleys, endless red land. Somewhere beneath that surface answers waited. Perseverance sent one last look back. The signal was gone. The ground looked normal again, as if Mars had closed its mouth. But the rover remembered, and Earth remembered. This was not proof of life. Not yet, but it was no longer just hope. Mars had crossed a line, and so had humanity. Perseverance turned forward. Its mission was not over. It was becoming dangerous. Because the closer humans get to truth, the more truth resists, and Mars was preparing its final test. To be continued, Perseverance moved forward again. Slow wheels, quiet motors. Mars stretched wide in front of it. Nothing moved, nothing spoke. Yet everything felt different now. On Earth, the control room was calm, too calm. The loud excitement was gone, the cheering was over. Now there was only thinking, deep thinking. Perseverance was built to search for signs of old life, not living creatures, not voices, just signs, just traces. Just proof that life once tried to exist here, but Mars had given more than expected. Not answers, questions. The rover stopped on high ground from here. It could see far into the distance. Rivers that were now dry, lakes that were now dust, a world that once had a chance. Perseverance raised its camera. This image was not for science only, it was for humans. When the picture reached Earth, people stared quietly. Mars looked lonely, just like Earth might look one day. One scientist spoke softly. Mars was alive, and then it wasn't. No one replied. Perseverance checked its systems. It was still strong, still capable, still ready, but something had changed. This was no longer just a mission. This was a mirror. Mars had water, Mars had energy, Mars had time, and still it lost everything. Perseverance collected more samples, carefully, respectfully. Each tube was a message to the future, a warning or a lesson. On Earth, plans were already forming. One day humans would come here, not robots. Humans, they would walk on this land, touch these rocks, ask the same questions. Perseverance was only the first voice, the first witness. As the sun began to set, the rover stood still. The sky turned dark red, shadows grew long, Mars looked peaceful again, but peace can hide tragedy. Perseverance sent one last message for the day. Simple, quiet, clear. I am still here. That message meant more than survival. It meant humans were still searching, still curious, still brave. Mars did not answer, but it did not need to. The silence said enough. If Mars could lose its life, could Earth lose it too? That question stayed with everyone. Scientists, engineers, dreamers, Perseverance powered down for the night. Its work was not finished, not even close. Because the greatest discovery may not be about Mars, it may be about us. Somewhere on a red planet, a small robot waited, holding secrets, holding warnings, holding hope. This was not the end of the story. This was the beginning of a new one. End for now.